Hello everyone, and welcome back to Progress to Success Management. This is video 2 of the online training and coaching program. My name is Terry Crow. I'm the president of Starfish Performance Consultants and the creator of Progress to Success Management. Now, hopefully you have watched the first video of week 2. And since you did watch that, I'm assuming, then you know we just covered the concepts of Progress to Success Management in the domain of manage yourself. And we talked about a working definition of manage yourself, and we talked about some of the key concepts associated with that, and closed with the weaving words and some strategies for how to create the kind of clarity that helps us as managers, leaders, business professionals better manage ourselves in a way that will help us take action to move forward and lead us to our desired future. Now we are going to be focusing on the 4 concepts, foundational concepts, that make up the manage yourself domain. So let's go ahead and dive into the domain foundational concepts. What you see here is when we talk about pillars, pillars are interesting kind of structures. They are unique, they are sturdy. They are perfect descriptors for foundational concepts related to manage yourself. And specifically, the foundational concepts here and the personal pillars here, they're designed to provide a foundation. So something on which we can stand as we are learning how to better manage ourselves. These foundational structure also provides a framework. So it provides not only something we can stand on, but also to give us sort of a design on how to manage ourselves. These are helpful to provide us with some structure, but at the same time, our structure is not rigid. The structure for the personal pillars, I'm sure you will find as we get into them, they're designed to be very fluid based on needs that arise in each situation. The pillars are also designed to do something really important, and that is to maximize our energy. Now, who here doesn't want to be able to have an abundance of energy and to be able to direct it in a way that's efficient and effective? And I can't tell you how many times that I've been in conversations or meetings or working on projects and just feeling like I'm getting nowhere or spinning my wheels, or I will leave and wonder, what in the world have I accomplished? And I'm sure others have felt the same way. So the personal pillars are designed to provide ways to help us be able to maximize our energy so that our precious resource of personal energy is expended in a way that's going to get us the best results that we possibly can get. These personal pillars, they are unique. How we interpret them, how we apply them, they're going to be unique to you, unique to me. And that's what makes them really effective, because it is not a one-size-fits-all sort of deal. As you learn to begin to use these and apply them, you'll be able to learn how to do that in a way that allows you to express your authentic self, and in a way that really capitalizes on your potential and your skills and what works for you, quite frankly. So these are what the personal pillars are designed to do. Now, what I've done here is left a really important part blank. And you know it's important because it has an exclamation point following it, right? So, one of the most beneficial aspects of the personal pillars, these personal pillars allow you to claim your space. They allow you to define what goes into your personal space. And this has a huge impact in terms of how effective you're able to be, how effective we're able to be as we manage ourselves. And here's one of the best ways that I can explain what I mean when I say manage your space. When we talk about pillars, and I'm going to be covering 4 of them, pillar 1, 2, 3, and 4, and each of the pillars will have a practice that goes with that particular pillar. And we've talked about the importance of practice, and I'll explain what the practice is, and then in our coaching call, you will be able to get even more application for the practice that goes with each of the 4 personal pillars. So, these kind of provide the structure, but one of the best ways I can describe the managing space concept is that you can kind of look at your personal space like this Parthenon. And the pillars provide the structure that holds up what goes into and out of your space, your energy field. Depending on what you let into your space, what we let into our space, what I let into my space, makes a difference in terms of the energy that we have to give, that we have to expend, and how we give it and how we expend it. And only we can make the decisions about what we let into this space. So the personal pillars provide the foundation. They provide the firm foundation that you see here. They provide the framework, the design. They're fluid, so they let things in and things out. But you can look at this as being your own personal space. And what you let in and what you let out, how you let it in and release it, makes a huge difference in terms of how you manage yourself and your personal effectiveness and growth. So, just to give you one example, when we talk about managing yourself, and when I think about my own personal space, one of the areas that I'm very aware of is guarding against letting too many people who hold negative perspectives and create negative energy into my personal space. And I used to think that way back when that I was able to help people who were this way, and I'm not talking about just us having bad days and feeling under the weather or whatever. I'm talking about people who have personalities that are constantly energy drainers and that just seem to be stuck in the problem and unable to move to the solution, and that want to drag other people down with them. I'm really aware of not expending my energy in directions for people who, quite frankly, want to stay stuck in the problem and not move to the solution. So these pillars help me to do that and help me to manage my space and what I let in it and what I let out it, and whether or not I choose to let the sun shine into it or whether I want clouds and rain. But this is what is so helpful about the personal pillars, is that they provide the foundation, give you the energy to let you claim your space. That's what these personal pillars do. So, let's talk about the first 2 pillars. pillar 1, pillar 2 here. I'll fill pillar in 2 as we get to it. So let's focus on pillar 1. And as you can see here, the first pillar is called perspective. It's called perspective. The first pillar to manage yourself is all about gaining and keeping perspective. And working definitions I find to be very helpful in creating clarity and giving structure. And so the first working definition that we have for perspective is that it is our ability to perceive and process things in their true relationship. Their true relationship. And even true can be a matter of interpretation. But it's processing and perceiving things in their true relationship, in their real relationship. Not just what we make up and attach to it along the way. So it's their true relationship without distortion or without bias. Ooh. Do any of you ever approach things and matters from your own perspective, and that might include a little bit of bias, or just things seem to be approached from your perspective and that's it? Well, our definition of perspective is that as we are managing ourselves, we want to be able to really keep things into perspective, and it's such an important pillar. You know, perspective is it's the lens through which we view our world. It's the lens through which we view our world and how we experience it and how we choose to experience it. Yeah, when I think about perspective, it brings to my mind the story of Alice in Wonderland. And as she follows the rabbit and goes down the rabbit hole, and she goes into this alternate world and a different reality where nothing makes sense. And what's big is small, and one pill makes you bigger and one pill makes you smaller, and people act in weird ways, and everything is distorted and nothing is as it seems. You know, Alice in Wonderland, that's a world lost in perspective. And I can certainly say that there have been plenty of times when I've been in a business situation where I have felt like I am living in the world of Alice in Wonderland. And I'm sure you can relate to that and have had some of those same experiences. And so when we find ourselves in those Alice in Wonderland sorts of existences, gaining perspective is a way for us to step back and to right-size our world and our reality and our experience. And that's what perspective is about. Perspective allows us to right-size our world and our experiences. It allows us to shrink things down when they get too big. It allows us to put more emphasis on matters that deserve more emphasis. It allows us to be able to compare and to contrast and to really give our experience some sort of context and meaning. So it's a very important concept, but it's our ability to process things in their true relationship without distortion and without bias. Now, concepts that are really important for perspective. And this first one, if you remember anything through this training, remember this concept. This concept is what I call locus of focus. And what locus of focus says is that I and I alone am the source and the causal contributor to every matter that happens in my life. I'll say that again. Locus of focus says that I am the source and I'm the causal contributor for every matter that happens in my life. Now you can say it a little bit differently and say, the way Locus of Focus says that the way I experience my life and what happens to me is based on my locus of focus. It's based on my perspective. So as you can imagine perhaps then that if my locus of focus is very narrow, then I'm going to experience the world in a very narrow sort of way, a very narrow-minded way. If I experience my world in a broader perspective, if I have a broader locus of focus, then I'm probably going to be able to let in things that will possibly be helpful to me. If my locus of focus is one that is short-sighted, that is mean-spirited, that is ho-hum, poor me, then that's how I'm going to experience my life. That's how my world is going to show up for me. And that's what I will get out of life. So how I experience life, how my world appears and how I live it is based on my locus of focus and my perspective. So to give you an example, let's say that as a manager you are talking to 3 or 4 people about a new system that you're getting ready to put into place in the workplace. Now, you may deliver the exact same message to each of those persons, but depending on their locus of focus, one of those people are going to experience it like a Disney G movie. One person is going to experience it like an exciting adventure Harrison Ford movie. One person might experience it as a comedy. You think we're going to be able to do what? And one person might think it's an Alfred Hitchcock terror horror movie. So we all experience things in different ways, and we all can choose what that locus of focus is. So perspective is all about starting here and choosing our locus of focus and our perspective. Now, a cousin to locus of focus, not the same, but cousin to it, is a concept that I call a U-turn. A U, me, a U-turn and a U-turn. And the U-turn is, it's all about you, and paradoxically, I can hardly say that, speaking, it isn't about you. It isn't about you, it's all about you. Well, what in the world does that mean? Well, what that means is that it is not about you means that the world doesn't revolve around you, believe it or not, and that others have their own perspectives, they have their own viewpoints, they make decisions and have opinions that are based from where they stand, that are based on their own locus of focus and their perspective. And so what's most helpful as we are managing ourselves is to acknowledge that, and to acknowledge that they're valid. They're valid. They might not be what we believe or what we hold to be true, but everyone has their perspective, and it isn't about you says that trying to change everyone else to fit your mold never works. Let it go. But it is all about you says that, back to the locus of focus, everything that happens, every choice I make, every choice you make, every decision, every action, it's based on our perspective, and it's all about you says that you are the only person who is going to be able to determine what happens in your life and to make choices and decisions and to take action, because you're the only one in your space. So you own that space, and the U-turn says it's all about you. It isn't all about you because others have their own perspectives as well. So these are the two areas that are related to perspective. Now, let me just end up and say that there's a practice, of course, that's associated with it. And the practice is maintain perspective through locus of focus. That's the practice. Maintain perspective through locus of focus. We're going to talk more about that in our coaching call on Friday, but that's the gist of that particular practice. Now, pillar number 2. Let's talk about what pillar number 2 is. And this is a really important one and one I like to speak about. And this pillar is about purpose. It's a pillar of purpose. And purpose, a lot of people talk about purpose, and I think we tend to make purpose bigger than, or more complicated than it really has to be. But purpose, in its simplest context, is the reason for which something or someone exists, the reason for which something is done, or the reason for which someone or something was created. So purpose is really all about achieving and working toward our highest calling and our greatest gifts. And purpose can be determined from a big picture perspective, and purpose can be something that we do on a day-to-day basis, and hopefully we do on a day-to-day basis. And purpose is something that really can change and evolve over time. It isn't something that is necessarily permanent and is always the same. Purpose evolves, purpose flows, purpose exists in the present with an eye to the future. Purpose is always about working toward achieving our greatest and highest call and our greatest and highest purpose. And we can do that in a lot of different ways, and purpose can change over time. But when we talk about it, there really are two different parts that relate to perspective. There's this purpose within us. This answers the question, what do I stand for? What am I doing on a day-to-day basis and on a longer-term basis that taps into and that is helping me fulfill and speak to my greatest and highest potential and calling? So just for example, 10 or 15 years ago when I was a mergers and acquisitions manager, or whenever I was a compensation manager, or whenever I was a planning and tracking manager, all of those were roles with very different responsibilities. And yet at the same time, as I look back, I realized that each of those jobs at the time tapped into and allowed me to serve my greatest calling and potential. So in that regard, purpose has to do with what's within us. The other really important purpose about, or perspective here, is that purpose is about fulfilling that need that goes beyond us. That goes beyond us and allows us to be able to help and serve others that help in a way beyond and that are greater than anything that we could do at an individual level. It serves a higher purpose. It serves a greater purpose. So within an organization, for example, you might be working to fulfill a higher purpose within that organization. there are many other ways that we achieve purpose that goes beyond us. But purpose that goes beyond us really allows us to be able to, well, I guess I put a star here. It allows us to reach towards the stars. There's something about purpose within us, and especially beyond us, that somehow has the ability to stir our human hearts and to motivate us and to inspire us to achieve way beyond what we ever could just left on our own and to our own devices. It allows us to really, it gives us that rocket fuel, if you will, that launches us into the stars, and it allows us to be a star. So those are that's the description that goes along with purpose. Now, the practice that goes along with purpose is this. The practice is to direct intentions and direct actions toward purpose. So even though we've said that purpose can be flexible and it can be changing, it evolves. You know, purpose evolves over time. When I first got this concept that purpose isn't something that's rigid and solid and here it is and it never changes, and that it really is malleable and it can bend, and that it evolves, that really helped me to be able to have some freedom in terms of pursuing my purpose. So I was able to direct intentions. We become able to direct our intentions, which is our mindset, which is what we're determined to do. We can direct our attention and our actions, you know, what we actually decide to do and do toward fulfilling our purpose. And when we get to our coaching call, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about how to go about directing intentions and how to go about directing actions in a way that will help serve purpose and that are directed toward purpose. And in fact, we'll talk about what your purposes might be. So that describes the first two pillars, perspective and purpose. And in this week, you're going to have 3 videos. And so the next video, in the next one, we will cover the last two pillars in the foundational concepts that relate to manage yourself. So, hope to see you there, and I will see you then.